Fear always arises across some divide of separation.
Right.
And by finding ways, sensitive ways to be together, to be more integrated, be more inclusive, while also honoring all of our differences, is what really lowers the fear. Where if we're able to be together, that's what actually brings down the fear.
So true.
Really interesting what you were mentioning with the neuroscience. So we're really understanding a lot about how that works now. And I was also thinking, as you were speaking about Dan Siegel's work and others around interpersonal neurobiology, which is used with understandings from neuroscience, but also with mindfulness. And really, we're understanding really how all this works. And of course, we see in the current politics, and where things have gone, it doesn't look like the current intentions around healthcare are going to make mindfulness more available to people with fewer resources or healthcare altogether, sadly, but hopefully we'll find a way to shift that pretty soon. But it just points to whenever we look at what's happening in our communities, what's happening nationally in this country, or even the global dangers that we still face, it seems like it's becoming so important to really understand in ourselves how fear arises, how conflict arises, how hatred arises, how othering arises, how enemy constructs arise, and then really understanding how we co-create that, so we can learn not to co-create that, so we can find ways to come together and let a little oxytocin arise in our system, so we can reach out to each other, open to each other a little bit. And it's been found time and time again, when human beings spend time with each other, they stop being afraid of each other.
It's true.
And until somebody comes back and convinces them, no, oh, you forgot. There's been such wonderful work done in the Middle East around, bringing Jewish Israeli and either Israeli or non-Israeli Palestinian children together and getting all these wonderful programs. And then the next intifada happens, it all blows up again, right? It really works, but then it blows up and somebody goes, no, you remember that's your enemy. You have to reconvince them that's your enemy. Right.
Well, and I think that I'm glad you mentioned the kind of almost cyclical or, those dynamics of progress and regression, right? Making some headway and then retrenchment. I'm a trained sociologist in addition to being a lawyer. And, one of the things that we learned from looking at, again, the research around these kinds of social dynamics, right, that we're embedded in as we try and engage mindfulness socially, is that, again, across societies, these challenges or tensions between the desire for altruistic, egalitarian hierarchy leveling or ameliorating, right, the kind of practices that bring us into more respectful and sort of less dominance infused engagement with one another. There's always some kind of activity going on in a society that's about that. That's about trying to bring people back together. And so obviously our work is very consciously seeking alignment with those energies that are here and trying to do what we can to maximize the effectiveness of any kind of effort along the lines of, that kind of capacity to see each other, what I call see each other rightly, to see each other as fully deserving of, as having some fundamental basic goodness, as we might call it, fully deserving of love, respect, and mutual concern and dignity. But the sociologists will show us that just as that is always operating, sadly, there's always operating, right, some counteraction efforts to, as you say, remind us, hey, but no, don't forget.
The work's not done.
Our enemies, right? And so I do think mindfulness can help if we're willing to look at this other bodies of research, as we do with neuroscience and neurobiology. Again, there's sociological research that I think, ignore at our peril. These are dynamics in our society. If we are not trying to kind of hold our mindfulness and our engaged mindfulness efforts with awareness that there will be struggle. There will be systematic efforts to kind of pull us back into our polarized, oppositional positions, right? And to kind of break down the sense of interbeing and sort of put us back in that sense of fearful, defendedness. that effort is going to be ongoing. And actually, as the sociologists will tell us, you go through periods where you see the rising and falling of the kind of success, if you will, of one set of dynamics versus another. And I feel like I think we need to name that we're in a period right now where we're seeing the resurgence of the kind of fear-based hierarchy enforcing norms. And so we see the tripling of hate groups in America over the last year, rise in hate crimes. Again, this sort of successful appeal to white nationalism that we've seen in the politics and the related tendency to otherize and want to exclude, right, with all of these sort of efforts in the immigration realm. And so not to go too deeply into specific politics, but just to name that those are the kinds of energetic currents that are real. They are part of what we are inviting ourselves and one another to bring mindfulness to. Yeah. And again, there's a way to do it that doesn't reinforce the dynamic of, us versus them, but is aware, this is what that looks like. And here's how these engagements that we're about, where we do create opportunities to feel our way into heartful, more beloved community, really is essential, I think, it's essential to sort of know that other dynamic is happening, but that this is happening, and that we can, through these practices, really start to create more of that shift in the direction of the kind of courage and bravery to actually feel our way into deep, rich community again, which we, again, can get lost and pulled away from so easily.
Well, I think what you just shared, and I know you're just about out of time here. I know you have another appointment. But what you just shared is so important because it is complex.
Yeah.
And I think we all can become so disheartened so easily. And we have to realize, we're all dealing with the human condition. As a human society on this earth, we are where we are right now. We're all working to keep it evolving in a positive direction. And there are going to be these waves and the regressive forces, and that's not to excuse anything. But I think if we see that big picture, realize it is complex, that can give us some hope that if we just keep getting up and doing our part every day, that we don't have to become disheartened. And, when I was more involved with the Buddhist Peace Fellowship for many years, they have a kind of two-pronged mission. One is to invite people who are contemplative by nature, have a contemplative practice, honor that aspect of their life, to become more engaged. And then also to go to the frontline activists, invite them to become more contemplative. And I've been involved in that for many years. We ran the Peacemaker Institute for many years, training activists, and we're thinking of starting that up again. And some of the frontline activists often resisted it because spirituality seemed like kind of, a distraction to them, or even might undermine.
Might pacify people.
Exactly. And maybe with the way mindfulness is emerging in the world, a frontline activist might see, well, mindfulness could help me be a more effective frontline activist. So maybe there's some hope there. Well,
absolutely. And I think we see that already. So that's good news. There's a lot of good news here, including some research that we haven't talked about specifically here, but that we will share more as we do this.
Well, we'll talk about this when we get to Maull Mountain Center this June. So thank you very much for your time today, Rhonda. And it's a pleasure as always. And I know this conversation is ongoing for you and I, and for hopefully many, many, many people. And we're so honored to have you as a faculty member in our Engaged Mindfulness Institute and have our students be able to study with you. And I'm just really looking forward to being at Maull Mountain Center with you. And I just want to let people know that this is called the Engaged Mindfulness Retreat, fearlessly embracing our toughest personal and societal challenges with mindfulness, compassion, and bravery. Yes. And that is June 16th to 20th. And if you're watching this video, it's going to show up with a link on the Maull Mountain Center website that you can go look at the retreat and consider registering. But
we want to see each of you. We want to see you there. We want to see everyone there. We want
to see everyone there. We want to see everyone there. Yeah. If these, what Ron and I have been talking about is of interest to you, we're going to take a really deep dive into it. We're going to be practicing, and we're going to be in dialogue and small groups and pairs and talks and big all kinds of community process infused with mindfulness practice, leaning in to some of these tough societal challenges that we all face together.
And celebrating together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll create a wonderful community for, I think, just about almost 5 days there at your Maull Mountain Center, which is an absolutely magnificent place in Colorado in the mountains. So,
Beautiful.
so thank you again.
Thank you, Fleet. May you be well. I look forward to seeing you soon.